Time Safaris, Rockhampton Walking Tours presents Who was Australia's first world champion at any sport? And what's this got to do with Rockhampton's Fitzroy River being the perfect choice to host the upcoming rowing events during the Brisbane Olympic Games in 2032? On February 24, 2021, Brisbane was chosen to host the 2032 Summer Olympics by the IOC, making this the third Australian city chosen since the modern games began in 1896. In March 2025, it was further announced that among the venues outside the Queensland capital chosen to host various sports was Central Queensland's Fitzroy River, which was to host rowing and canoeing for both the Olympics and Paralympics. Almost immediately, the tsunami of negativity over the proposal began. Known as Tunuba by the local Darumbal people. The river was named after Charles Augustus Fitzroy, the 10th Governor of New South Wales, and is the largest river on the east coast and second largest in Australia. The Fitzroy's catchment area is staggering in size. At 130,000 square kilometres, that's larger than England and most of Wales. It's also one of the world's oldest rivers, having possibly even seen the dinosaurs come and go, and is host to numerous relic animals and plants, like Rheodites leucops, the bum-breathing turtle, magpie geese and cycads or tree ferns. Despite what has been claimed, the Fitzroy does contain all the features required by the IOC rowing rules. At the time of the Olympics, the river's flow rate is low and well under the maximum standards of the IOC. And yes, there are crocs and sharks in the river, an issue that Olympic sailing regattas face, as well as surfing. You also never hear about an issue of wolves, tigers and bears in the wild mountains of the Northern Hemisphere during the Winter Olympics either. And before you scoff, biathlete Mary Beth Miller and ultramarathon runner Amy Adamson were killed by bears while training, and numerous athletes have had close encounters with these enormous predators. And let's not go into how many athletes and horses have been killed linked to the equestrian events. The point? Danger is everywhere, and to this date, there has never been a single incident between rowers and any form of wildlife on the Fitzroy. However, there is a strong historic reason why the waterway is the perfect river to host the rowing. Do you know who not only was Australia's first world champion, but also the first world champion in any sport that wasn't British? Rowing is arguably Australia's oldest sport. Since the first fleet arrived in Port Jackson, competitions between crews were organised to race across the magnificent Sydney Harbour. Only boxing can claim an older world championship, with the first rowing race run in 1831. Born in 1851, Edward Ned Trickett was from Sydney, and the powerfully built 6'3" quarryman dwarfed most people of the day. Due to his size and strength, Trickett dominated local rowing competitions for years. Ned rowed scull, a rowing technique where competitors use 2 oars, one in each hand, to propel a boat forward. In 1876, a Sydney innkeeper called James Punch took Ned to England to row for the World Championship. In reality, Trickett had been sponsored by a betting syndicate, who felt someone from Australia would be given long odds to win the World Championship, and they bet £10,000 on Ned to win. That's roughly $1 million today. On the 27th of June, 1876, Ned Trickett lined up on the 4-mile course along the Thames, and 24 minutes 36 seconds later, shocked the gathered crowd when he rowed past his fast-starting English opponent. Trickett had just defeated the 2-time world champion, Joseph Sadler, by 4 lengths, and become the very first non-English world champion at any sport. However, the trouble with this is, as New South Wales was a colony of England, this means officially Ned Trickett was an English citizen. But let's keep that fact just between us. The following year, Ned defended the title on the Parramatta River against local Michael Rush over 3.5 miles. Ned wasn't done yet. His second defence, again on the Parramatta River, was against yet another Australian, Elias C. Laycock, in August 1879. Controversy would dog him for a short time after this race, as Trickett had lost a race leading up to his title defence to Laycock. Some punters suggested there was heavy betting placed on Ned being defeated, and the sheer domination of his title win made them ask how he could possibly have lost the earlier race. The Bulletin magazine later reported, "Somebody went up to Ned Trickett on the holiday and openly accused him of rowing to lose his race with Laycock. Ned did the proper thing, and somebody else was good-natured enough to pick the man up and bathe his damaged face until he came to."
Sore muscles after a hard day? Tired from back straining work all day? You need St. Josper's oil to rub away the fatigue and pain.
Even back in 1880, companies knew having a celebrity connected to their product was beneficial. Ned had become so famous he began representing sponsors like St. Joseph's Oil, a muscle liniment produced by dedicated friars in Germany. In reality, it was made in a factory in the United States.
St. Jacob's oil cured me of severe pains in the back, and I have found it a sure and certain cure, and one unequalled by any other remedy,
said the ad, cleverly published to just look like an ordinary comment on the letter page in Sydney's Freeman's Journal. Ned finally lost his world title on November 1880 against Canadian Edward Hanlon on the Thames. This all leads to the question, what's this got to do with the controversial decision to host the upcoming Olympic rowing on Rockhampton's Fitzroy River? When Ned returned to Australia after winning his first World Championship, 25,000 people were waiting to congratulate him along Sydney Harbour. Reportedly, one patriotic fan was so proud of Trickett's accomplishments. As a thank you, he gave Ned the keys to a Rockhampton pub situated on the corner of East Street and Denham Street, called the Oxford Arms Hotel. One likely reason for Trickett losing his World Championship was an accident reported in 1878. While moving beer barrels, a heavy cask broke free and caught Trickett's hand, crushing 3 fingers and requiring at least one, possibly all 3, to be amputated. Losing the ability to grip an oar, you would think Ned Trickett's rowing career was over. Yet he continued thanks to a special glove, and despite losing some of his famous power, managed to win the next World Championship in 1879. Now living in Rockhampton, Trickett was determined to take revenge on the Canadian who finally defeated him in 1880. Gathering £1,000 as a prize, Trickett challenged Ned Hanlon to a race in Rockhampton. On June 14, 1888, both men sat on their boats, with 10,000 spectators lining the Fitzroy River. That was 5 times the population of the town at the time, proving people from across central Queensland had come to watch the race. It would be nice to say Trickett took his revenge that day, but the truth was he was much older and had that damaged hand. The Canadian not only finished well ahead, Hanlon turned around, rowed back down the course, turned about, then raced down the Fitzroy and lapped Trickett again. After this, things were never the same for Ned Trickett. After investing in a mine, a market downturn saw him lose everything, including the Oxford Arms Hotel. He was forced to move to Sydney, where he was a bridge watchman, worked for New South Wales Customs, joined the Salvation Army after getting in trouble for duck shooting on the Sabbath in Rockhampton, before finally moving in with his son at Uralla. Here they both worked a gold mine. Tragedy would strike again when their mine shaft collapsed. Ned was inside and later died from his injuries. And today he is buried in the Salvation Army section of the Uralla Cemetery. As for the Fitzroy River, today many are suggesting the Olympic rowing should be moved further south to Brisbane or even Sydney, where there would be bigger crowds and safer conditions. This was exactly what was proposed to Trickett and his Rockhampton race in 1888. Rockhampton's world champion explained it was no use talking of going to the Parramatta. He would not go there. The only race he would row would be on the Fitzroy. Australia's first world champion, and the man who won over 150 trophies, believed the Fitzroy was the finest river for rowing in the world. It wasn't just Trickett either singing praise about the Fitzroy River. When his opponent, the Canadian Edward Hanlon, was interviewed after his practices on the watercourse, the local Morning Bulletin reported, he was mildly enthusiastic. It is a long way better than he had been led to believe. And then, coming out of his shell, he added, I do not think there is a finer course in the world. I am very much delighted. And if the Fitzroy was good enough for Ned Trickett and Edward Hanlon, it surely must be good enough for the elite of the modern rowing world today. This tale from Central Queensland's history was brought to you by Time Safari's walking tours. History, true crime, cemetery, ghost and murder, botanic garden, and dinosaur fossil tours of the Rockhampton Zoo. And let's not forget, you can order our book, 101 Weird, Wacky, and Mostly True Things About Rockhampton and Central Queensland. Visit www.timesafaris.com.au to book a walking tour or find out more.